Hello and welcome to the big picture. There has been a major debate in this country for some time now about whether the juveniles indulging in serious crimes should be treated as one or as adults. The Union Women and Child Welfare Minister, Child Development Minister Maneka Gandhi had last month revived the debate by pointing out how juveniles in the age group of 16 to 18 years are indulging in rapes more and more. This has led to the NDA government now proposing amendments to the Juvenile Justice Act, where juveniles in the age group of 16 to 18 may now be tried as adults in regular courts for any heinous crimes such as rape. The clamour for such changes in law had started after the brutal gang rape of a girl in a Delhi bus in December 2012. However, there have been child rights activists who have opposed any such move. Now that the Union Cabinet has cleared the amendments to be brought into the Juvenile Justice Act, what would be the impact and implications of it if and when the Parliament passes these amendments? Is the bringing down of the age justified? Will it lead to improvement in the situation? As it is said that the rate of juveniles in 16 to 18 age group indulging in rapes have gone up significantly in the last couple of years. To discuss this, I have with me T.R. Kakkar, former Delhi Police Commissioner, Reva Nayyar, former Secretary Union Ministry for Women and Child Development, Nalin Kohli, BJP spokesperson, and Anant Asthana, a lawyer and child rights activist. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Kakkar, as a policeman, are you happy that these amendments are being made?
There is no question of being happy, but it is a step in the right direction, all right, because in the recent past, we have seen that a large number of juveniles have been indulging in heinous crimes such as rape, murders, etc. And it has also been heard and observed by the law enforcement authorities that these juveniles are being almost hired by some gangs to commit crimes, telling them clearly that, look, you are, even if you're caught, you're going to be there behind bars not more than 3 years. So they get these things done. These things have come to notice, and therefore the present proposal of reducing the age from 18 to 16 for the juvenile, should they indulge in heinous crimes such as murder, rape, and it is also again, it's not that any juvenile of 16 years committing a crime will get the life sentence. No, only if they knew the consequences, and a lot of preparation has been done. Take for example this Madangir case where a boy has been stabbed 14 times and the boy was called there, they gherawed him and they stabbed him. Obviously the preparations were made even though the culprits are juveniles. In such cases, these things, the maximum punishment, or they can be sent to the jail rather than a reformatory, that provision is there. And who is going to decide? The decision ultimately has to be taken by the magistrate or maybe another board that may
the
be
Juvenile Justice Board.
It is not just the police to say that send him to Tihar.
Right.
Okay? So that is the difference.
Yeah, the juvenile, in fact, the amendments, the proposed amendment very clearly says that the Juvenile Justice Board will have to decide whether these juveniles have to be tried in a regular court or not. Anant Asthana, I would like to come to you. How do you look at these amendments? You people have been working on these issues for a long time now, and there has been a clamour, and as Mr. Kakkar says that these kind of incidents of juveniles indulging in these kind of crimes have been going up. So would this bring to a halt or at least control these kind of crimes of juveniles of this age group?
Yeah, as you rightly said, there has been a clamour, and a clamour without any basis. It's very routine to say that juvenile crime has increased, and particularly sexual crimes. On the contrary, if you look at the data, it's not true. 50% of the sexual crimes are committed by 16 to 18. We fail to understand from where this figure is coming.
Yes, Maneka Gandhi
NCRB data I have.
Maneka Gandhi has been quoted as saying that 50%
Police has
of the
given wrong information to the minister, I think. NCRB has the accurate data. I read out the NCRB data. 1.3% of murders are by 16 to 18.
1.3% of the total murders in the country.
Total murders committed.
Out of total how many?
Out of total, total murders committed in the country was
When was this? Which year?
64,813. 2013.
Okay.
So 64,000, 1.3.
Out of that,
That's about 800 murders.
Out of that, 845 murders were committed by the juveniles in the age group of 16 to 18. It's not 50%. Now come to the rape. 42,115 rapes committed across the country in 2013. Out of that, 1,388, which is 3.29%. So clearly 50% is quite an exaggeration and quite an incorrect perception of reality. So we fail to see where is the basis. In 2013, when the challenges came in the Supreme Court, Supreme Court said something, which said the entire data was presented by the government and by different parties before the Supreme Court on juvenile crime, because one of the arguments was the crime is going up. Supreme Court looked at the entire data on juvenile crime and said that the data on juvenile crime is not sufficient to warrant any change in thinking. But within 1 year, we see a change in the thinking, and that's why we have been warning that it's more a result of a media campaign based on 2-3 isolated cases. However, on the ground, juvenile crime is not much. It's quite manageable, quite a minuscule population. 1.1% of the entire crime in the country is by
murder.
Population. No, entire crime. Total crime, 1.1% is by a section which is 42% of the entire population. So there is no need to panic on that.
These are very interesting statistics.
No, I'm not going to get into a debate on statistics because he's quoting the National Crime Bureau.
Record Bureau.
However, I think the larger case is, unfortunately in India, sometimes we tend to look at everything in percentage terms, and which can be misleading. Even 1%, as he was pointing out, that's why I asked the absolute figure, 800, and among just murder and rape, we found over 2,000 such cases were there. Now, internationally, even 10 cases like this would make headlines. Because after all...
It has made headlines here also.
Absolutely, no. I'm talking even 10 cases. What has been reported, there is also in the country an unfortunate system that not all, for example, sexual molestation cases do get reported. Sometimes we tend to read the reporting as an increase in crime, but actually it is only, people feeling courageous in terms of going ahead and reporting it, because now the situation is making it conducive that people should go and report it. However, the larger question is there are 2-3 factors here which we have to bear. One, what Mr. Kakkar said, is about the outsourcing of crime, which is a viewpoint that I share
which is a very interesting thing what he is talking about.
Now, outsourcing of crime is not impossible because our structures in the country, and this is a failure of the country too, that if people are out there without being where they belong, children, in schools or in safe custody, of foster care if they do not have the family thing, and there are inadequacies here too, they can end up with the criminal elements, and we have seen it on television 3 days ago. Nirbhaya was an example, Shakti rape case was another example, highlighted in the media. So therefore, the question here is, I think that's where the government is putting a little bit of a barrier. Rather than it going straight, the juvenile board is to look at it. Death sentence, life sentence, both have been kept out of the purview in terms of what the cabinet has approved. And the last part is, should they see that it is a premeditated crime with full understanding that you are committing a crime?
Who decides that?
That's why the juvenile board is going to. It's not going straight to the police force. However, there are countries in the West, it's not a debate that is only new to India, where the severity of the crime and the intent or the motivation also behind the crime determines in which court you are tried. So I think this is not a subject that's exclusive to India. This concern is picking up. My last point, just a quick point, is with sexual molestation and related crimes, we have to recognize that there are also studies that are now coming that puberty ages are undergoing a change and coming lower. So therefore, we have to recognize things in the context of what they are, not just only on data.
Mr. Kakkar, would you like to react quickly to what Anant said before I go to Reva Nayyar?
Yeah, but
the statistics.
I fully agree with the comments. Statistics, look, it's like this. If you really want to go by the statistics, I think you have to be a little more careful. In the last 2 years, the heinous crimes have increased by 137% by the juveniles. The question is, forget about all that. The question is, there is a tendency on the part of the juveniles now to take to heinous crimes. So, this has to be somewhere curbed. In any case, what is the new law saying? New law is only saying if it is a premeditated, if they knew of the consequences, then only then the board which is being constituted or the magistrate before whom the case is going will determine whether he should be sent to a reformatory or a proper trial should be taken. So why is there so much of hue and cry? After all,
Mr. Kakkar
demands it today.
Mr. Kakkar will come back to you.
Any college, they will say hang them.
Mr. Kakkar will come back to you. Yes, Reva Nayyar. Looking at it from a larger perspective, looking at it from the larger perspective, looking at it from the reformation point of view, the whole idea of juvenile justice board and how they should be treated is all based on a particular philosophy that these children of that age can be reformed.
Well, the law initially was made, Juvenile Justice Act, and brought into line with the International Convention on the subject of juvenile justice and seeking reform of how to treat youngsters who are in crime in order to reform them so that they don't waste the rest of their lives. Now, what has happened in this age of, I would say, information technology and media is the little ones from the age of even 5 and 6 are exposed to a lot of violence on the computers, on the games that they play, on the information, on the movies that they see, even from the cartoons. They learn a lot of violence. And when they see this violence, they try to emulate it in their real lives and do it. Now, urbanization also, with populations packed closely into juggies, the opportunities for rapes and for being in the condition where you would rape, you know, crowding, overcrowding, traveling in metros and buses, in co-ed institutions, schools, universities, people are thrown together and everybody has in their hand some form which will immediately expose some violence, some pornography, some idea about, sex, rape. So this is becoming more and more. It is normal all over the world in every society. We have been clamoring for the change ever since we noticed in our country that in the community and society, this is now taking shape and children are now indulging more and more in crime. I am so glad this government has so quickly taken up this matter of the amendment and brought the amendment, but it has to be done in a very, very enlightened way, with the Juvenile Justice Board also being set up, composed of very good people who will be experts in psychology, etc. And then if this is worked together with the amendment, I think it will be wonderful, not only 16, but even below 16. Some children are over mature.
You would like to go down below 16, then where do we stop?
For the Juvenile Justice Board to think in special cases where it's a very violent act.
Earlier the age limit was 12 years. If you see the Indian Penal Code, it was 12 years, 7 years and 12 years. Well, that is a different story, but it was a different era. It was 12 years, and after that, one could be tried.
Something important.
But that era, let's forget about that, but then there was that limit.
It
is only 14 years ago that the UN Convention and all that, whole thing came up.
Yes,
these
Nalin,
things
quickly.
have not really worked as they were desired.
Sir.
There's no harm in making changes and being conscious of the whole thing.
See, I think it's a point that Reva was saying, which, I just recalled reading an article on it, and I wanted to be sure before I speak on it. It's out there on Wikipedia too. What has also happened is, unfortunately, there is a game, and this is what it was banned in Argentina, banned in Thailand, banned in Malaysia, made by some Japanese company, where the primary focus was rape. It was about the story of a person raping a lady and her 2 daughters. Now, that's a game.
No, but I'm sure
the point
you can't generalize that.
No, it's not generalized. I'm talking of something specific.
But you can't say that is going to affect.
Hold on. I'm making a point. I'm making a point. A point which I'm making is, and it's important, is the amount of what we are exposing society to in terms of violence, crime against women. Through this, like this, is also altering the nature of what's happening. So we need to be a little more nimble-footed.
Nimble-footed, right? But Anant, how do you react to this? One second. I want you to address one issue and then you can tell us what you think. Juvenile Justice Board, there is this buffer which has been provided in this amendment that, it will first go to the Juvenile Justice Board. The Justice Board will decide whether the crimes committed is heinous enough for these, juveniles to be tried in the regular court. Don't you think that's buffer enough?
See, it's called waiver system. The system which is being created now is known as waiver system.
Right.
And there have been studies and experiments on waiver. Various countries have experimented waiver system. And waiver system is widely considered as a flawed model of juvenile crime prevention because of its indiscriminate use. People, children who come from poor sections and the prejudice which exists in the system actually makes it worst.
Against
so that's
the
why
poor
people
and
from the marginalized sector
Right.
will be adversely impacted by this unnecessary discretion which is being given to a lower court. Juvenile Justice Board is a very low court
Right.
and is headed by a metropolitan magistrate.
Right.
To give that kind of discretion to such an unexperienced magistrate is not a sound proposition in the law. Even if, I mean, look at the death sentence. Death sentence is confirmed by the High Court. Here you are giving a power to the lowest possible court. Apart from that, waiver means subjecting...
No power is not being given. It's not that power is being given.
1 second,
It's
sir,
just
1
to
second. Let him
decide
finish,
where
sir.
to be tried, you see.
No, let him finish, sir. I'll come back to you.
Yeah. So I was on the waiver. Waiver, in effect, allows certain authorities, sometimes police, sometimes the board, to waive certain children to the adult system.
In this case, the proposal is to leave it to the board, the Juvenile Justice Board. Well, you think that it is not
waiver is not a proper model, and it's widely acknowledged across the globe.
No, but the basic question of whether now 16 years you bring it down to 16 years. Reva Nayyar feels that it should go down further to 14 years because of the way the children are
extremely violent.
She has a good question. Why not bring it to 10? Why you are fixing it 16? Because 10 year, 8 year also do equally heinous offences. So bring it down to it.
So there is no end to,
I think
there would be no end to it. There would be no end to it.
Any structured, and I think in a democracy there will be views, counter views.
No.
I don't think that is a matter of a challenge.
Behind.
The point is that if anything is being done, after all, we have questions about democracy itself. There are flaws, but that doesn't mean we need to. So I think there's the mindset here is at the end of the day not there to go out and how to say to go against the rights of juveniles in that sense, but it's also about a balance.
No,
I was more concerned about the fact that we are looking at the crime of rape. Rape, there's a victim. It's a very serious offense. We must look primarily that the victim gets justice. Now, whether the juvenile is 16 or 14, death sentence is ruled out, life imprisonment ruled out.
No,
we are only seeking to see whether that boy should be
That's
punished.
what I wanted to clarify.
What are you saying?
There is a possibility of a juvenile being given death sentence in the existing bill. There is a possibility of juvenile being given life sentence. So there is a misconception being created in the media. I have seen the bill. There is the only prohibition is for an offence under IPC. So if you are accused of an offence under IPC, only then you cannot be given death penalty, only then you cannot be given life sentence. But if you are accused of any offence for which there is a punishment of death or life but doesn't fall under IPC, then this existing bill allows.
Which are the other laws under which?
NDPS Act, there are so many laws.
Which are the laws?
NDPS Act.
Which are those offences? Which are those offences?
So that's why they are opposing. So you are actually allowing death sentence and life imprisonment to the juveniles.
So fine. So you made a that's an important point. Maybe that is where that also needs to be needs to be covered. But tell me, you activists, child rights activists have been saying that if this lowering of age takes place, then the whole question of reforming the juveniles will not be will be defeated.
It's not only reformation. Our concern is also the safety of society. We see a greater danger. Down 20 years, if you allow a country of 42% population below 18 years to have an option by which authorities can waive children to the adult criminal justice system, not everybody you are going to hang. You are forcing them to spend 10 years, 15 years in the jail with the hardened criminals. What do you suppose will come out of the jail back into the society? Wherever waiver has been created, for example, in states, those kids who have been waived to the adult criminal justice system, the records say that 80% of them have come back from the jail and have gone to commit more serious offences.
They become repeat offenders.
I mean, they get hardened into the crime. So you're trying to fix a problem now, ignoring what will be the consequence after 10, 15 years.
That's a very important point. Reva, Nayyar, and I think all of you need to address this issue. See, the whole juvenile justice system says that, you know, when you find juveniles indulging in crimes and they're sentenced, they are actually put 3 years and then they're put into a system, reformation system, where they're expect. What has been the Anant? I want to study any statistics on what kind of children when these juveniles come out of these probation homes and things like that. How many of them go back into crime or things like repeat offenders?
See, I'll say two facts. One, that the juvenile justice administration system in India has been in shambles. Despite that, the lapse rate in India has been 10%. Right?
When you call, what do you mean lapse rate?
Going back to crime.
Like going back to crime.
They will go back, they become repeat offenders.
Despite all the odds, despite lack of political will to implement the act, the results of this act have been very useful. I remember a case of two girls from Jharkhand. They were accused of Naxalite activities. And when they were treated under JJ Act, there was a huge uproar in Jharkhand that how can these Naxalites be treated under a law which is for children.
Right.
Just because the JJ Act was there, now those two girls are working in security forces. If the JJ Act would not have been there, and there are thousands of cases from my own personal experiences also, so it works.
Absolutely, Mr. Kakkar. You know, we looking at it from the other point of view. You are putting these young men and women into jails, and you're exposing them to hardened criminals. What do you expect them to be when they come out of their sentence?
You want me to answer, is it?
Yes, I want you to answer.
Yeah, okay. Now, assuming that a juvenile, let's see, this is 16 to 18, there are 2 years. A juvenile, somebody who commits a crime is 17 years and 350 days. If he had committed crime after 15 days, perhaps he would have been tried as a normal accused.
But this argument can be stretched
to say that the juvenile will become a hardened criminal. Question is, when he goes to the jail and if he is given 10 years or 12 years or 13 years, when he comes out, he is going to be about 30 years old. He is not going to be a juvenile anymore. It's not that we are sort of deliberately making me hardened criminal. And in any case, let me tell you, my 36 years of service in the Indian Police Service, I find there are not too many people who repeat the crime. This is a misnomer to say the hardened criminal. Maybe yes, 5–10% people who continue to commit the crime even after they are released from jail. But about 90% accused, they refrain from committing the crime again.
Well,
so let's not make a thing that they will be hardened and they'll continue to commit crime.
Okay, yes.
But the
Nalin,
punishment has to be given.
Nalin, he makes a point. You don't know the will.
They demand.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
I think
Nalin, you have to address what he said also.
No, I'm coming to that. Everyone is bringing points to the table, and that's what is good about a discussion. What I think the other counter view is, we tend to be drawn into discussions either or. Actually, it's a matter of both. If we also look at the reality of the juvenile structure, and there have been enough media reports about it, how horrific the conditions are.
Absolutely.
Sometimes kids there become hardened criminals because they are in that structure. Ordinary Niketas, we've had bad examples.
No, but as he rightly said, despite that, there is still a...
I'm just coming to that.
Yes.
My point is, despite many things, there are good examples also in the structure. There are also pathetic examples. In this case, if a law is being brought, and this is a continual process, you do not see it coming as a full stop. Based on needs, based on assessments, both of it. Things keep changing and evolving, and I think that's the approach. We have to find that balance at the end of the day without a structure going again. That's the important thing. So, I mean, we do not either reject it only for one argument or accept it only for one argument.
And
So
I would like to round that up by
Yes.
saying that let us also have a fresh look at the juvenile justice homes. These homes that have been set up need to be reformed tremendously. There are bad practices, very, very severely bad practices happening over here. There's abuse happening in these homes itself. And these children come and bring more and more abuse into the homes. It's also for the jails to be reformed. In case you're putting a 16-year-old in jail, there should be a separate category of rooms for these children. And I think jails also need to be reformed. This is my personal view.
They're overcrowded. That's one of the major problems of
Anant, you know, this is also an argument, and it sounds reasonable enough that you know, once under this newly amended act, you know, 16 to 18 years, they're tried in the regular courts, sent to regular jails. Maybe have a separate system there to keep them instead of, you know, indulging, you know, including them among the other criminals.
I want to raise much more fundamental thing. When the juvenile justice philosophy came to India, it was backed by a proper study. It was 1919 Indian Jail Committee report.
Right.
That committee examined the conditions of jail.
And then they can be, psychologists can go, other people can go, all those things can happen.
Yes, yeah. Please continue, Anant.
Right. So, the foundation of Indian juvenile justice law was laid down by a proper committee which examined the subject, and they had a particular chapter called child offender.
Right.
They examined the entire subject.
What is the chapter?
Child offender.
Okay. Child offender. It is a 37-page long chapter in the Indian Jail Committee. Very beautiful, very extensive study on every possible aspect. And that's how the juvenile justice started growing from there. And then the 1986 Act, and then during the BJP rule in 2000, this wonderful law called Juvenile Justice Act 2000 came.
Right.
Right. Now,
and there have been,
now we are killing it.
There have been several amendments
changing
later
it.
also.
Is there a basis? Has there been any study going by media report, going by my personal feeling or your personal feeling, or some police source or some police officer telling somebody something? You don't change law like that.
Absolutely.
There is absolutely no study done,
that
no
I
assessment
agree.
done, no assessment of why children do crime. And second point,
that might be an overstatement.
Second point is that how do we look at children? Are we going to just shy away from the responsibility of society for creating an environment in which our young people go into crime and then hold solely them responsible?
Absolutely.
Who is creating porn movies? Adults. Who is selling drugs? Adults. Who is creating this cinema which arouses sexual feelings in the young people? Everything is possibly being done by young people. Children are getting affected, and
by adults and children are
refusing to hold any responsibility.
That is a very, I think both of you need to address this.
There is also a very important problem.
You are putting the child, you are putting the onus on the child for something which has been done by adults.
Adult is providing, yes, I suppose.
In all honesty,
in information technology.
No, it's not only about that. I think there are points here that have relevance, like what Anand ji is just saying about the fact, yes, and I can say that, you know, I share concerns about what he's saying, that after all, the environment, everything that's being created is because of that. We need to look at it holistically. But I will not use that as a full argument against any amendment that takes place in law. This is as important. What he's talking about is not a negation. It's as important, needs work to be done. At the same time, while you're looking at the other thing, just because we haven't gone into, say, we don't have a study per se, but if we are finding a trend and it's alarming, it's better to even put in place a deterrent. A law is essentially a deterrent.
Absolutely.
But the environment part he's saying is the larger question, and of course it's very valid.
No, the point made by Anand that there has not been any study, but to a great extent, I'm sure all of you will agree that there has been this media frenzy which has created this atmosphere in this country to amend laws, and which this is not the first time it's happening, unfortunately. Hopefully, we are completely run out of time, but hopefully there will be better debate when this issue comes into before the Parliament, when the amendments need to be made. Obviously, from today's discussion, there needs to be a more clearer discussion about whether these kind of amendments will bring about any major changes and help the society at all at large. We will hopefully see a better discussion on this on the floor of the Parliament. Thanks to all my guests, Mr. T.R. Kakkar, Nalin, Kohli, Reva, Nayyar and Anant, Asthana. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue in Big Picture same time tomorrow.